Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 9 o'clock on a Monday, which means it's time for a 5x5. This is where I take 5 topics related to magic. I spend 5 minutes talking about each topic. And at the end of the 5 minutes, I move on to the next topic. It's always quick, it's always snappy. You never know what you're going to get. And today, I'm going to be doing another live performance special. So we're going to have 6 segments here today, not 5 segments. And the idea is I'm going to take 3 clips of me performing at an actual gig. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play those 3 clips for you. After each clip, I'm going to play the clip again, but this time I'm going to put a commentary track over the top. Because I firmly believe that the best way to learn and the best way to get better is by studying your own footage and looking at other people's footage as well, and looking at performances. We can always improve. The day that we stop thinking that we can improve is the day that I'm going to get out of this industry. It's as simple as that. So, I've been around for a long time. Hopefully listening to the commentary over these videos might help you guys with something that I'm aware of that you might not be. I'm not too sure. But these videos always tend to be really popular. So I'm going to do another live performance 5x5 special, and it's going to start right now.
Right, okay, so guys, I have 2 blank cards. We're going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to put them down in front of you. We're going to get back to those later on. James, we also have a pack of 52 playing cards, all there, all different. Now, James, you're going to grab one of these cards. You can have any one you want to. It's completely free choice. So I'm going to run my thumb down the deck like this. As I do, anytime you want to, say stop, my friend, okay?
Stop.
There? Are you sure? That's your card. Can you show everyone? Do not show me. I don't want to see the card. You got the card? Make sure that you remember it, because later on when I say this is your card, if you got I don't know, it loses its impact slightly. Now I'm going to give you a pen, James, and what I'd like you to do is write your name in big letters on the face of the card. Can you do that for me? Take the pen, I'll look this way, into your eyes. How you doing? You okay? Good stuff. I know, it came across more creepy than I intended, to be perfectly honest. I was going for Joey and I ended up with Hannibal Lecter, I think, on that one. So.
She likes creepy.
Really? Are you guys together?
No.
I was about to say, if you are, I can see why. Right, okay. We're gonna put the pen away, right there. And did you show everyone? Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you put the card back there? Yep. Excellent stuff. So, guys, watch very carefully over there at the back in the cheap seats. Watch very carefully. I'm gonna put your card in the middle of this half. This half goes in the middle of this half. So, in other words, the card's going in the middle of the middle of the middle. Now, it's your choice. Would you like to shuffle or leave them as they are? I don't like you guys anymore, lads. You're just making things really hard for me. You wouldn't tell me to shuffle, would you, James?
I don't know, maybe. Well.
Thanks, buddy. Fine. Do you remember the blank cards I put in front of you?
Blank cards, yeah.
They're not actually blank cards. Brace yourself. This is a teleportation device for magicians. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, no, it's not. It is. It's actually a teleportation device for magicians. I can use these 2 cards to make anything teleport from one place to another. Would you guys like to see how this works?
Yes.
I will make your signed card, James, teleport in between these 2 blank cards. Now, the only problem is it takes a while. You have to do it bit by bit. Watch. First of all, I do this. I wait a second. Believe it or not, now we have 3 cards. We have an extra card. This one right here in the middle is actually James's card. I just haven't sent the ink across yet. Now I can tell that nobody believes a word that I'm saying, so I'm going to prove it to you. Now I've got the card, we're going to get the ink. First of all, the back. The card goes right here. I wait a second, I snap my fingers, and that's when we get a back in between. I know. Now the only thing is the back doesn't have a face yet, and the reason is I haven't sent the face across. But now the face is going to happen. So watch this. There's the 2 blank cards. This one goes inside. I snap my fingers, and hopefully, let's have a look. 2 of spades, is that your card? Yes! It's a miracle. Now you know how it works, and you look just as confused as you were before. But there's something missing. Does anybody know what I'm missing? The signature. High five. Ow. Thanks. Watch. The signature. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We're going to get the signature. It's hard because that's the trickiest thing to go. But I'm going to put it in between the 2 blank cards. Right there. You hold on to the end. It happens on 3. 1, 2, 3. Have a look. And now the signature's on there. Check that out. That's the signature. That's the 2. That's the card. That's for you. Thank you very, very much. So this is basically the best way to describe this routine is a slow motion
sandwich routine. And the whole idea is that you show a couple of blank cards, you have a card picked, you have a card signed, it's lost into the pack, and in slow motion you make the card teleport from the deck to in between the blank cards. It's a little bit like Paramount by Aldo Colombini, and actually Paramount was my starting position when creating this routine, but there are a lot of major differences between Paramount and between this. It comes across as a very, very different trick. And if you're aware of Paramount, have a look at Paramount and compare it to this, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, the first thing that I want to point across here, or the first thing that I want to point out, is the first thing that I do is I show the blank cards and I put them out onto the table. This routine can be done kind of at any point in your act that you want to. And the other thing I want you to know is when I'm performing to a big group of people like this, I think, well, say big, there's like 7 or 8 people here. There's a couple off camera as well. It's important to have byplay. It's important that you're not just a magic machine. And I've seen a lot of magicians performing at gigs. And what they do is they just perform at the audience. And I think, scripting is very important, obviously. But I think that comes across when you are overly scripted, and you have a script to hit. I like to be more fluid because it allows me to banter with the audience. It allows me to stop and go in a different direction. And I think that's very important. Somebody says something, you stop, you acknowledge what they say, you go in a different direction, you make a joke about it, then you come back into the routine. When you're completely scripted, you don't have the ability to do that. And I think that one thing that magicians should learn is that ability to improv and chat to the audience and have conversations, and I think that's very important. And one of the biggest pieces of advice I give magicians is go and take improv lessons, go and take improv classes, and learn how to, go and do some stand-up comedy or something like that, and learn how to listen to what somebody says and change what you're doing. And magic's brilliant for that. Because one thing that magic really allows you to do is go in a completely different direction. The spectators don't realize what the trick is that you're doing. So because they don't realize what the trick is, it allows you to go in a different direction. And I can't tell you the amount of times that I've started a particular trick, somebody said something, and I've ended up doing a completely different trick because of what they've said. Now, back to this particular routine. This is a close-up routine, obviously, that I'm doing to a bunch of people. What I try to do when I'm doing this sort of thing is I show it to one person. So the person that I'm using as the main volunteer, it's kind of like I'm almost showing them, but then I'm getting everybody else involved as well. So notice that my body language and also how I'm standing and what I'm doing and how I'm holding the cards, I'm constantly showing them to everybody else in the audience at various different points, even though the focus of what I'm doing is on the one particular guy to my right. And, that's very, very important. If you don't bring everybody else that's watching into the performance, then what will happen is they will switch off and they will lose interest and they won't want to watch you anymore. The way that you get them to watch you, the way that you get them to pay attention to what you're doing is by drawing them into the performance and getting them involved in the performance and what you do. In terms of the actual trick, it's a relatively simple trick to do. You can learn it from the actual project, but it's very strong, and it always gets a great reaction. It's a nice routine to follow up a sandwich routine because it allows you to kind of almost like expose what's happening. And one thing that blank cards really allow you to do is create a strong hook for the routine. And one thing that I think a lot of magicians should do is think about hook lines. Think about what you say to draw the audience in. And the more time you think about hook lines, the better your magic will be.
I wish I had a better act. That's amazing. Now, what was your name again? Lynn. I've got 4 cards. It's called the 4-card trick. Do you have any idea why it's called the 4-card trick?
Because there's 4 cards.
Oh, have you seen it before?
No.
That's correct, there's 4 cards. But there's something special about these cards. You probably noticed they're blank.
Yeah.
They're blank on one side, they're blank on the other side. This is what cards look like before they're printed. Very difficult to get a deck of cards like this. You've got to know somebody who works at a playing card company. They sneak them out on the midnight shift. Now, if you buy a pack of cards, you get them ready printed. If you're a magician, you buy them like this and you print them yourself. Which sounds crazy, but look, if I take this card and rub it against this card, when I do, I get it back.
What?
I know. Now, the back does not have a face, but at least it's one card that I've managed to print. Now, if I take the cards and give a little twist, do you know what happens? We get a back on each one of the faces. Check that out. That's 4 cards. I know. But that's backs. Let's see if we can get a face. To get a face, you take one of the backs. Now watch. All you have to do is give a little twist. When you give a little twist, you get a face. That's the jack. See, the jacks are my favourite cards. So if I give a little twist again, I get another jack. Give a little shake, I get a third jack. Give a little shake, I get a back, but the back has a face. The face is a jack. And guys, we've managed to print 4 cards with fronts and with backs. Thank you. Do you want to know how it works? Yeah. It's very simple. It's all an illusion. It's not real. It looks, no, genuine. It looks real, doesn't it? It's not. You see, if I do this, you can see that there were no fronts. There were no backs. You see, the whole thing is just in my illusion. In fact, I've got to be honest with you, there never were any cards. Seriously, the whole thing is just, and that's how, thank you, you look so confused. Me too, I don't even get how it works. That's just so weird, right? I know. Thank you. Okay, so this is one of my favorite openers to actually perform when I'm doing walk around, but it also works, as you can see here, on a big table. And the basic effect is that 4 blank cards that are blank on both sides are going to print and then vanish again. Now, anybody who's got any experience in Magic will know that this uses a bunch of frustration counts. And one of the things I want to point out to you is when you're doing a frustration count and you're doing it numerous times in one routine, what you don't want to do is just do it over and over again in a static position. What I want you to notice that I do when I do the frustration count is I'm turning to various different people. I'm turning to the left and doing one count, and then I'm turning to somebody on the right and doing a second count. Then I'm doing the next count directly in front, and it's very important to do that. And you can see it with every frustration count that I do. I also vary the tempo up of the count, so it's kind of like I'll start very slowly and then I'll move quicker. Just to kind of break it up a little bit. Now, I have had people say to me, oh, can you get away with this many frustration counts in one routine? And the answer is yes. And you can see that from the reactions of the people in the audience. You can see that they're absolutely freaked out. Nobody's thinking, well, hang on a second, am I really seeing backs? Am I really seeing faces? What's going on here? It's such a deceptive move. The frustration count is such a deceptive move. And this routine takes full advantage of it. And that slow motion printing is a perfect example of routining. Now, when you get to the point where you see that I turn them all blank again, obviously it's a side steal. But I want you to notice that the side steal happens when everyone's clapping from the printing. They think the routine's over. They're clapping because all the cards have been printed. And then and when they're clapping and cheering, that natural offbeat is when I do the side steal. And I just hold the card off to one side. I hold it out, and then once I've held it out, I draw attention back to the packet. And, you know, I know a lot of magicians have got magician's guilt, but my big piece of advice is if you're doing anything where you're actually doing like a side steal as a color change, break the motion down. Rather than doing the side steal and immediately doing the color change, the best thing to do is to do the side steal and then hold out that card for a while, draw attention to the packet, and then come back up and do the change. That works a lot better. Now, when you see the vanish at the end of the routine, you see that, again, that's done on the offbeat. You see that the cards are vanished, and then you'll see that and that's an old Pat Page kind of card manipulator style vanish, but the focus, again, is put on the hand. The cards vanish. I pull my sleeve up, implying that both hands are empty, and then the cards are ditched on the offbeat when nobody's really paying attention with a body turn. So the big piece of advice I can give you from this video is be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of where everybody's sitting and try to get everybody involved in a performance. That's really the best way to go when you're performing any sort of magic like this to a relatively big group of people. Yeah, exciting, exciting. We're going to try and do something. We're going to try and do something very, very cool. I've got some cards here. Now, these cards are blank. They've got nothing on them. These are what cards look like before they're printed. Very, very difficult to get a deck of cards like this, which is why I don't have a whole deck. I only have a few cards. They're blank on both sides. We're gonna get back to those in a minute, but you'll see what I'm gonna do with them, okay? I'm gonna put them there. I also have a phone, and the reason I have a phone is because I want you to think of a name. A boy's name or a man's name. Now, when I ask somebody to think of a name, statistically, psychologically, they tend to go to one of 3 or 4 names. And a lot of the time, I'll have people say to me, and they'll say, Craig, because that's my name, they'll say, Craig, I know what you did here. Everyone thinks of the same name. So I've got 100 different names here on this phone. You're going to give me a random number from 1 to 100, and then you're going to tell me what the name is. So give me a random number.
64.
Are you sure? Because that's 5 away from my favourite number.
No, I'm positive. 64.
You're on 64. One person, thank you. 64. You don't want to change your mind, no? Oh, you got there. It took a while, didn't it? We got there. Good. 64.
It's a children present.
Well, there's the notes page, right? Do you see there 100 boys' names in the UK? I got this off Google. I Googled it, and this is the list. Can you check the list out, make sure they're all different, and then in a loud, clear voice, tell everyone what is at 64.
Jake.
Jake. Is that J-A-K-E? Jake. Now, it's not Jake on every single number on that list, is it? Because if it is, that wouldn't be magic. That would be stupid. They're all different, correct? But we have Jake. We're going to put the phone away, and you're going to see a miracle. I'm going to take the blank cards, and we're going to take one of these cards, this one right here, and all I'm going to do is write J-A-K-E. Is that right?
Correct.
Like that. Is that right? Very good. Can you hold that for me just for a minute? That would be amazing. Now think about this, guys. He could have thought of any card. He could have thought of any name, for example. If you'd said a different name, if you'd said a different number, it would have been a completely different name. We're going to try and do something crazy. I'm not going to use all of these cards, but we're going to use a few of them. We're going to lay them out on the table. I'm going to put one there, one there, one there, one there. And you know what we'll do? We're going to put a few more out as well, and we're going to lay them, say, like this, and this, and this. And we don't need that one. You can keep that as a souvenir later on. So, I want you to see this. We have a situation where we have 8 blank cards and a freely chosen name, Jake. Watch this. If I take this card and snap, what I can do is I can make that Jake jump onto that card. Now the interesting thing is, if you look carefully, you'll see that that's actually in mirror writing, because when we printed it, it was the other way round. But we can now use that as a template. What I mean by that is I can take this card and I can print this one, but I can go further. It'll be printed the right way, but if I touch it to something green like my tattoo, don't you think that's weird? It comes out as green. Oh, thank you. One person, I appreciate that. You know, maybe if I do it again. My favorite color is red, so let's try red. It looks like this. 1, 2, 3. Now, if you want to, you can actually do this more than once, but you have to be quick. Watch. If I do this, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I was quick enough. Let's have a look. Look at that. Yes! Like, I mean, if you want to try this at home, you can. You just need to get some blank cards. You can actually combine these 3. Seriously, if I do this and I hit it 3 times, I've got to be quick. 1, 2, 3. And then you touch the green and the red. You end up with that sort of thing, which is kind of really weird. Now, if you are going to do this, and I encourage you to try this at home, remember to use the template, else it's going to come out the wrong way. That's very important, use the template. The other thing that I would suggest, if you're going to do this, is sometimes you can just do part of the name. So, for example, if I just do this, I can just get the JA, which is fine, that's fine. But if you're going to do this, you want to be careful. You've got to be very, very careful when you're printing it, because if you're not careful, if you touch it too fast, you can smudge it. You don't want to smudge it. I mean, that's bad. You've got to wait for the ink to dry. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Correct.
But my favorite one, now you know that the ink doesn't dry immediately, I can show you my favorite one with the last card. If you're quick enough, you can do this, you can do this, and that. And I think that's the strangest thing I know I've ever seen. And Yeah, you guys could examine everything. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so this is one of my favourite routines on the whole of the blank project that I did with RSVP. And this one uses a whole bunch of blank cards. And it's my handling of Presto Printo by Daryl. Now, if you don't know what Presto Printo is a classic Daryl effect where you have a bunch of blank cards. They are shown as being blank on both sides, and then somebody picks a card. Let's say the 10 of hearts, and then one by one you print all the other cards to match the 10 of hearts, but each one gets printed in a slightly weirder, different way. So some of them get printed reversed, some of them get printed smudged. There's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. And it's a great trick. And this is a perfect lesson in creativity here. Because one thing that I always try to do when I'm creating a magic trick is I try, wherever possible, to... I try wherever possible to look at existing plots and seeing where we can take them in a different direction, and seeing how you can kind of take that plot and move in a different way. And the perfect example is if you've seen my trick Lucky Lotto by Penguin. That's bank night, which is traditionally done on stage with bigger props and envelopes and bags. And it was the idea of putting bank night into a scratch card, which can be carried around with you and thus becomes a close-up trick. So with this particular routine that we're talking about, this is Presto Printo. But I remember, and I performed Presto Printo for years, but it got to a point where it was like, okay, so Presto Printo, okay, fantastic. But the problem is I want to move away from playing cards. I always try wherever possible to move away from playing cards. So how can I move away from playing cards with this? Well, one way I can move away from playing cards would be to use blank cards, but then what could I use instead of a playing card? And it took a while, but eventually I came up with the idea of using a name. Now, I use digital force bag to force the name, which just makes sense. If you're going to be in a close-up situation and you're going to force a name, digital force bag is absolutely one of the best ways of doing that. So now what we have is, this is no longer a card trick. This is now a trick where a apparently freely chosen name gets printed multiple times in different ways on cards, on blank cards. And laymen don't look at, when you show cards that are blank on both sides, they don't look at them as playing cards. They look at them as blank cards. That's what they look at them as, almost like file cards or something like that. So now you have this moment where it becomes more impossible because, like I say, it's no longer a card trick. Now, notice in the routine when I lay the blank cards down that they've examined, I'm left with one blank card, and it took me ages to figure out what to do with that blank card. And then I realized, well, the best thing to do is just to say, oh, I don't need this one, and just put it away. And sometimes the simplest solutions are the easiest. But now you can go through very much a Presto Printo style printing routine, but with a freely chosen name. And it becomes more impossible when you're using a freely chosen name, as you can see from the reactions. And if there's one piece of advice I can give anybody that's performing close-up magic, it's looking at existing card plots and then asking yourself, how can I take that plot in card magic and move it away from a deck of cards? So this is an example of taking Presto Printo, which is a classic card trick, and moving it away from cards. Nobody would think this is a card trick. But you could, you see Derren Brown, for example, many years ago did basically what is out of this world, but with pictures of people that are alive and dead. Same sort of thing. It's out of this world, but it's no longer a card trick. So how can you take your existing card magic and how can you make it so that it's no longer a card trick? And honestly, for anybody who's got this project or has downloaded this from RSVP, this is one of the strongest routines that I do. The one downside, it's not really a downside, but the one thing that you need to be aware of is that obviously you need a bit of table space, so it's not the sort of thing that you can do walk around. But even though it's not the sort of thing you can do walk around, it becomes absolutely impossible as each moment happens and as each printing takes place. it becomes more and more impossible. And the nice thing is at the very, very end, they can examine every single one of these cards. Not only can they examine every single one of these cards, but at the end, they're instantly reset. So the reset happens almost instantly, and it's a very commercial trick. And this is something that I've been doing for years and years and years, and it's almost self-working, other than the ham and count at the very, very beginning, which is not a difficult routine to do at all. Pretty much everything is self-working in the routine. So really what I want to put across in this commentary isn't so much about the trick, it's not so much about the handling in the trick or how to manage an audience. It's about creativity, and it's about taking the magic that you do and seeing if you can apply it to something else. Okay, so you do an ambitious card. Well, what would that look like with credit cards? Or you do a sandwich routine. Well, what would that look like with coins? And all of a sudden, you're creating brand new magic, but using plots that you are already aware of and you like. And that's one way to make your magic more unique, and it's a very important thing to do.
So there you go, guys. That's another 5x5 in the bag. Thank you once again for joining me right here on Magic TV. Don't forget, you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. I'm going to be back again tomorrow at 6 o'clock with a Magic Live, and 9 o'clock with another video. There's tons coming up on Magic TV. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again soon. My name's Craig from Magic TV.